ball rolling, so to speak, because that ball is really on a good roll when they get to us. So we started some things with coding and having the kids design some things, and you hear these folks talking about Ozobots and Hummingbird robotics kits, and they're going to get into a little bit about what that means and how that works and how it benefits our students. So I brought with me tonight Susie Lavallee, Lauren Costley, and Emily DeBazio. Susan and Lauren have been at our building for a number of years. Emily is new to Cecil Intermediate, but she had been at Weilandville for a couple years. So she got to kind of live that elementary experience and that coding firsthand and what those kids got to do and what they brought to us. So again, awesome. I'll let these ladies take over. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, so I am Susie Lavallee, and I am a grade 5 language arts and social studies teacher. I think of myself as a lifelong learner. I'm super duper curious by nature, and I'm a big fan of digital learning.
Hi, my name is Emily DeBazio, and as Bob said, I've been in the district 2 years. This is my first contracted year, actually, and my first year at Cecil. So I'm bringing kind of what I learned from Code to the Future and blending it and advancing it this year in 5th grade.
And so I'm Lauren Costley. I'm also a 5th grade math teacher. So Emily and I are actually team teachers this year. It's my first year working with Emily, and it's going wonderfully. I've also worked with Susie my very first year here. So we're kind of the techie gurus. We love getting our hands dirty with some new tech things that are going on.
They're the ones that come to me and say, hey, we don't need money. Can we try this?
Yeah.
This would be really cool. So I've learned over the years to say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's give it a shot.
But they actually start with, we don't need money.
So sometimes they try, we don't need money, but then all of a sudden,
This is free.
this is free for now. And then,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
No, that's a good job.
Yeah, so we wanted to start somewhere. A couple, I guess about a year ago now, we started getting Chromebooks, and our school became one-to-one with Chromebooks. So we said, let's start integrating them more, and let's start using them for other purposes than just
Documentation.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so just give that one. Yeah, what yours?
Okay, so we basically had to ask ourselves a bunch of leading questions, though, like how does this fit into our setting? Because it's different 5-6 level than it is in K-4, or 2-person teams, or in 6th grade they're actually departmentalized. We wanted to figure out how we were going to bridge the gap between what they were coming to us with and then what they needed to have when they went to 7th and 8th grade, because Dr. Trino and his team has a great program going on there. So then we, from there, once we knew kind of what we wanted them to be able to do, then you have to think, well, what kind of programs would best meet your needs and what's free and what's not.
Right. Yeah.
And then also the robotics portion, because coding is great and on a screen it's great, but the actual physical portion of it really fits in well with our Maker Ed philosophy at Cecil Intermediate School. So we wanted to make sure they were downstairs in our maker space putting things together, but we didn't know what tools were going to be the best tools to use. So, and then it comes down to time, as all teachers know. What can we do? How can we bring this into what we're already doing so it's not an add-on and it's embedded into what we're already doing? And then we are also thinking, what is our ultimate goal here? And it's some of these soft skills that we really think will serve them well as they grow older and in the workforce. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what I used last year and started this year with. These are called Ozobots. Aren't they adorable? These are actually robots, and they understand light. And so you can program them in 2 ways. Number one, you can program them with markers. And so they come with a set of 4 markers, black, red, green, and blue. And you can color a line with certain patterns mean certain things. So it could mean go straight, it could mean go fast, it could mean go slow, it could mean turn right, spin. And then these are the Evo, these are the the Cadillac of the Ozobots, but they also make sound and sense. So after you're done learning how to line code with markers, which is what my students start to do in the fall, then you can go online to Ozo Blockly, and you can actually code them to drive just like you would a car that drives itself, self-driving vehicles. So you can go to the next slide. So I started last year by line coding just some simple fairy tales. Big Bad Wolf visiting the 3 little pigs' houses, just so they understood how they work. This year, I stepped it up a notch. We did our own novels. They read each pair of students read a different novel. They had to come to me with the most significant portions of their settings. They had to defend that, and then I gave, which went so well because they knew this was the end result, and I gave them a large sheet of graph paper, and they were able to code the path and draw it all out. And they thought that was, I thought this was a great way to show what they know, and just an alternative. So that was the beginning. So the next step will be to, again, go on to Ozo Blockly and understand how to put these commands together. And then what you do is you take the little robot and you hold it up to the Chromebook. It's unbelievable. And when you hit load, it flashes a light on your screen and it loads it onto here. And then when you put it down and you double tap it, it runs the program that you have coded on your Chromebook. I know, it's really crazy.
Crazy.
So they do also work with Bluetooth, but that I thought was really interesting. They could really understand how the robot worked. So that's where we're headed next, and then by the end of the year, I hope to be able to be creating our own original stories. So here we are writing our own stories, talking about parts of the plot.
Cool.
And then brainstorming settings, antagonists, protagonists, possible conflicts, things like that. Drafting, this is an example of what we did last year, and we integrated this with our bee unit, so the students in science are learning about the pollination process in bees and plants and things like that. So our main character had to be a bee and had to integrate something with the pollination process. And so you can see our students from the last school year. Then they, too, I did it on paper. I'll change it a little bit next year, but you can see how they were able to use some of the materials, understanding how things work. I think just adhesives and things like that, and then the coding portion of it. And then, again, if you go to the next slide, the soft skills. This is an example you can kind of play. We don't have to play the whole thing, but you can hear a student voice just explaining their story. Call it Code Me a Story. But anyway, this is their original story, and a bee. There it is. Yeah, it's soft.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So just lots of great feedback from the students. The engagement was high. Much collaboration was necessary. Much collaboration was. They were so excited to do it. I had an English language learner student, and what her teacher said to me was, what's interesting with coding is the language is the same, and it's pretty standard. And so the two kids communicated better about coding than they did almost about anything else.
Is that the ball moving?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that so?
Moving.
Yeah. He came across a problem and encountered a bear and ran away. And you would be surprised. It does take a lot of thinking to get it to go as far as you want it to go and to turn when you want it to turn. You know, you think it's going to be easy, and it's not. It's actually kind of complicated.
So, can I ask a question? Yeah. And Grace will probably have to. Now, this is the next advanced steps from what we saw at the elementary level, because they had these little cars.
Yeah.
So this ball is way more technically above that, right?
I don't know.
Well, it is because it has the light thing.
Yeah.
Well, the cars the kids had to build, right?
Right,
They had to
right.
Legos. So this
Right.
year they're all designed. Many schools aren't even using the curriculum of what to build. They're building their own.
Oh, okay.
So the creativity is just growing
Oh, okay.
tremendously. This is just another type of tool, and it's
Okay.
being programmed to teach it differently, like Mrs. Lavallee said.
Uh-huh.
So they're programming on the computer screen. They're taking that Ozobot and putting it up to the computer screen, downloading the program, which they do at the elementary school
By
plugging
Bluetooth,
it
right?
in. They were plugging it in and downloading the program, then unplugging it and putting it on their Mac.
Huh.
And this is a prime example of what we wanted to get to, of that integration. So
So-
Mrs. Lavallee is a English language arts teacher, and she is still teaching plot and author's purpose and
Point of view
characters,
and-
point of view, and yet these kids are now using this digital tool,
Right.
and that is a little mini robot. Yeah. So is
Awesome.
it more advanced? Actually, it's quite honestly, if you think about advancement,
It looks
being cheaper,
easier.
it's less expensive than the Lego robots,
Oh.
believe it or not.
But I mean, it looks
No,
easier.
I
I'm just taken back by how that little ball can
You
do
can
so
put
much.
these, there's a driver's ed class for these things, and you put these little foam marshmallows along
Oh,
the
no.
path, and you tell the robot, you code the robot that when it senses something to the right, to bear to the left 45 degrees. So you can actually make it weave through things. We didn't
Wow.
get there last year, but because we're starting earlier this year, I mean that self-driving vehicles and I'm trying to think of the
iRobots.
term, but there was a student last year whose dad did things like that, and he was so excited about it that he was actually the one who said, "My company would love to," and that's where we got a second set of these things.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So
And
it was
this is
great.
so simple that you might have missed it, but you can start off just with 4 colored markers.
Markers.
And
You
you're
start with
drawing, I
markers.
actually bought one of these from my 5-year-old granddaughter for Christmas
It's a
this year.
perfect
And
gift.
she can draw a straight line with a black marker and not even program,
Look at this.
but it knows that black I'm going to do this, red I'm going to do this,
Donna.
yellow, green I'm
Yeah,
going to do
red,
this.
black, blue was going to do
Yeah.
this.
Exactly.
And they
Yeah.
That's
just
amazing.
learn. It's really neat.
Yeah,
That's where
thank
my-
you for
that's
that
how I
in-
learned about it too. My kids.
Yeah, thank you for that information. Go ahead.
No, I just have my rubric and how I use it. in
Okay.
Microsoft,
You know
so
what?
go
I
on.
think
Go
we need
ahead.
to click out of the video.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay, there you go.
Oh, and that's just the assessment that
Yes.
Mrs. Lavely used. Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly. So Mrs. Lavely used something called Ozobots, which we just saw. I used something a little different called the Hummingbird Robotics Kit. And let me grab it out of here real fast. So
They may have seen this with the elementary.
they may have, yeah. I'm not quite sure. Okay, I'll just use these two. So I teach math and science, and of course, you know, I love to try new things, and I like to try to integrate technology as much as I can, and especially with coding and whatnot. But we had these robotics kits at our to use in the building, and I didn't really know how to use them. I'll start with that. I said, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I want to try this. So when I opened the kit, I immediately saw this and went, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? So I started doing some research, and these kits are very, very useful, and it's almost like a blank canvas. So what this is in a nutshell, this is a motherboard, this is the Hummingbird Duo. This has different ports on it, and each of the ports you attach something to it, and then you would attach this board to a Chromebook or a device. You would go into a coding program called Scratch, which is actually used in K-4s, so students are very well aware of what the programming language is. They tell this board what it wants it to do. So there are outputs and then there are inputs. Outputs are like lights and motors, and then inputs are things where you attach to the board, you do something to it like a sensor, and then something else happens, like a light turns on. So this is your starting point. Well, I said, how am I going to start using this and showcasing what my students know, more than just coding? How can I get this embedded within my curriculum? So I took these, and you can pass these around if you'd like. This is a motor, so pull this out here. So I took those components, and I decided to do a little research again on my own through the different websites. And one of the units that I teach is on pollination, the process of plants and how they grow. And again, with 5th grade, Susie did hers with the Ozobots. I decided, let me use these Hummingbird robots somehow. So I wanted, after the unit was taught, I wanted each student to work in a group of 3 to independently research a topic that aligned with what we taught. Some of it was more reteaching, some of it was more retelling, some of it was a higher level learning that they were really diving into a topic that we really didn't have a chance to touch on. Go ahead and turn this on. So I broke them into groups of 3, I gave them their topics, and they first researched, they created a speech, like a reteaching speech, on the topic they researched, and they recorded their voices into Scratch. So they recorded it into the program programming language. Finally, in the second week, we decided to take those speeches and time them with our hummingbird robots on a diorama. So, let me grab this real fast. You'll see a little video of this. Talking very quickly. So this group in particular retold the story of pollination. So they made a diorama of a flower. There are lights on this diorama, and then at the very top there was a motor that had a bee attached to it that would rotate, that would be pollinating the flower. So as their program ran, their speech timed with everything. So they first talked about the bee pollinating and the bee moved. Then it went into what happens after pollination and this lit up. Then it happened, they then talked about what happened after that and something else lit up and so on. So each group had a different topic. Some was pollination, some was photosynthesis, some was parts of a bee, and so on. And that's just us working. This was the end of last year. And then we can actually look at this example, the process of pollination, the bottom left.
And do you have 5th or 6th graders then?
I have 5th grade. Hopefully, we're getting
Unable to play.
Oh no! Okay. This is it's okay. Yeah, no, sorry. Let's see if that one works.
There you go.
Okay. So this one was about photosynthesis. It's very good. So there's the sun turning, lighting up the leaf. Okay, so you kind of get it.
Yeah, I did get that.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
different when they did it light up on a timed. They
Yeah,
had a
so they
speed.
had to figure out
How
how
to
to
talk.
time their speech
Mhm.
with everything that was moving
Mhm.
or lighting up. It was actually a lot
So the
of,
lights came on. They were on a timer. Like each
Kinda.
one came on at a different time.
yeah,
They-
kind of.
they
They had to
actually-
figure that out.
Very
They
interesting.
actually started this one right here, you see that?
Yeah.
That's a sensor. So
Yeah.
you saw the kid's hand?
Yeah.
He just did this, and it started the program running.
Yeah, so
And
they
one thing that
programmed
you
them.
might not have realized, all of her children last year recorded their own voice. They don't even have to stand in front of their projects and talk any longer.
Right.
They ended up recording that also. That was a recorded voice that was timed based on that first wave of that hand, and everything being
Okay.
timed appropriately. So they're
They
learning a lot
far
of
exceeded
different
my
things.
expectations with this.
They
And
normally
then
do, yeah.
They
The kids
really
normally
did.
do, yeah.
I gave them an idea and I said, let's run with it. And then that just kind of was a snowball effect. And then what was really great, and some of these afterthoughts, were the depth of knowledge and learning that the students took away from this project was far exceeding of what I could teach them just from a book. They owned their learning. They went even further with this, and it really stuck with them because they had to hear their voices so many times talking about the same thing over and over again that they know it. It's embedded in their brain. A lot of students who are very hesitant with coding in general, especially girls, actually had a huge mind shift after this. A lot of them came to me after the project was done and had mentioned that they were so excited to feel like so empowered with this and so successful that they're now thinking of jobs in engineering.
Some of them, she
and
said,
coding.
they wanted to be in charge of the art. But by the end, they were like, move out of the way, I'm coding.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm taking over. I can do this. And it was a lot of
And vice
side by
versa.
yes, and it was a lot of side by side teaching. It was me more of the facilitator and kind of going, "Are you guys okay? What can I help you with?" And me kind of taking a step back and watching them teach each other, which was so huge. I feel like for them, they again helped them own their own learning.
Now, the kids who took your classes last year, my niece was a 5th grader last year, so she came to my house, and I guess they can get on their own Well, she was on my laptop. She messed it up. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I mean, you know, she had her coding on there,
Yeah.
and
That's
I didn't know what to do.
Right. You're right.
I had to bring her back, and she had to close it out.
It's not like it saves on its own, that you can close it and you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
But it is amazing to see how their brains work.
Oh,
And they get it. You know, they just get it.
Yeah.
So
Well, plus
that
all
was
the
that was a project we did last year, and then we're gonna actually move on to.
Do you have a question? Yeah.
No, I was just going to
Oh,
say
go
that
ahead.
I think it's amazing all the different ways that they approach topics really would aid in retention
Yes.
because it's not just sitting at a desk and
Exactly.
it's not just coding
Yeah.
and technology.
Yeah.
It's math.
It
It's
was
English.
encompassing many aspects of their learning
Pretty
in their
nice.
brain. I mean, it was hands-on. It was
and it would make it
retelling,
easier
was
to remember.
reading and-
Pretty nice.
Yeah, that's
And it's
So-
not so much what do we cut out to do this, it's, you know, we don't have to cut anything out, it's part of what
Yeah.
we're doing, it's just a
Right.
different way of doing it,
Yeah.
different way of learning.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what sets us apart and makes us different. That full immersion piece
Right.
to the. Yeah.
We just want to keep it up.
Yeah.
Keep it up because we know that fifth and sixth,
It's
like
coming.
more and more are coming that are going to be prepared. This year we have the students from Hendersonville and we're like, okay, but like we're the only ones that had that training last year, so we gotta get everybody caught up. But it's pretty easy.
Yes,
We're finding it's pretty
yes.
easy.
I'll pick up on this quickly, they really.
Hills,
really do.
Hills
Third graders use
I
this
watched the first and second graders at South Central last year, and they blew my mind.
They're amazing, yeah.
It was
This,
amazing.
this is above and
Just actually
beyond
comment.
amazing.
Yeah.
And again, let me urge you, take this to the PTA meetings, the parent meetings,
right.
let the whole township know what's going on.
It
Because,
is
I
exciting.
mean, we're
It's
so
exciting.
excited
It is.
about what's
Yes.
going on in our district, but we gotta let the parents and the grandparents
Right.
see this,
Right.
so they believe what's going on when these kids get home, and they'll wonder why.
Yeah, we didn't do anything in
That's
school.
good.
Sure you did.
Yeah.
Just to add to this program, Carnegie-Mellon has a lot of this in their curriculum. So there's a program called Assemble,
Mm.
and that's what they do this with kids, put on
Yes.
different levels.
Yeah.
And it may give you some structure.
Yes.
Our daughter went through an assembly program.
Did they?
And
Okay.
really enjoyed it.
I actually
Very
follow them
cool.
on Instagram. I actually look at their stuff, so I was
Yeah,
just
they're
wondering,
really,
okay.
they're really good. And they have various teachers that volunteer and can help, and they have various grants they can provide. So at the forefront,
Yeah, right?
since Carnegie-Mellon is at the forefront
Right.
of technology, one
Right.
of the top in the world,
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
maybe something that's happening.
Right, thank you.
Mm.
So, to
Real
real
briefly,
brief,
for the project they did this year, I'll let, Mr. Bazio talk about the gingerbread houses.
Sure. Okay, so kind of this slide is just talking about how Lauren and I together are working on some projects. We started off at the beginning of the year with the projects in front of you kind of look like art projects right now, but when they're plugged in, they transform. So we started off by just using an LED light, which, did you pass that
yes,
around
so
already?
that was.
Yep, with the motor. So these are still the hummingbird kits.
One of these.
Afterwards, we went and we added a motor. So we kind of started small just to get them comfortable, caught up some of the kids that maybe weren't as strong in the coding and working collaboratively and everything like that. You can press that later.
Yeah, and this is actually using also a LED and a motor.
So there's music playing as well. But basically, the group was inspired by, yeah, there's like,
There we go.
So they have music.
That's the coding. Is this the yeah, this is the gingerbread house.
You can turn it down.
less.
Okay, so basically we just, I gave them like the blank canvas of, okay, let's focus on just gingerbread houses because it was right before the holidays and they were really excited. I'm an ELA social studies teacher, so we started getting into descriptive writing. The writing piece, you can't really see it as well, but basically they're trying to sell their gingerbread house by using strong descriptive language, and then that was the project that they created with that. So we have a couple in front.
There's a lot here.
Yeah, so we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously, the descriptive language. They were looking at the focal piece of their project, their writing piece, all of that coming together.
So we worked collaboratively as a team. We are a team, and we were able to. I was able to teach them the coding and the electronics portion, while Ms. Sabezio worked on the writing and the connection between math and ELA.
Neither of those are on. Okay, well, both of those videos are more of the same project. Macy's Thanksgiving Day Quiz. Yeah, I don't know why.
See,
it's
this
not
is my
working.
login, and I put these videos on here.
You should have the kids do it for you.
Yeah.
I gave access to public, so
You
I
can
don't
go to
understand
that
how
one.
it's working, but that's okay.
Is that about it?
That's about it.
We just have some pictures basically. So the right hand showing just the writing process that they're working on. The upper middle we do after we have these projects, they go through a gallery walk where the kids get to play their projects, show their code. I'll actually pass around this Chromebook.
You can see it.
You can actually see a couple lines of code, and it's actually so impressive to just think of everything that goes into it. Just the lights as they're flashing. They're thinking about the timing, the intensity of the colors. Yeah, all of that goes into it. Middle one, they're actually building the code, and on the left, they're constructing their project.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So when I was in 7th grade, I decided that I should be in advanced math, but I should not have been in advanced math. But I still got put in advanced math because I was sure. So so I fell a little behind, but nobody really noticed because I was really good at pretending. And so how do you make sure that people are not falling behind, and what do you do when they do?
I mean, like with coding in general?
With
or?
with the coding, and so that they don't fall so hopelessly behind that they end up being a C student when they should be an A student.
Right.
Well, this is part of what we do. You know, we still do traditional paper and pencil
okay.
kind of things and
Right.
traditional learning, but this just kind of enhances it, so to speak. So again, we still have programs in place for students who are struggling learners, or whether it's on one chapter of a math book or math in general. So if that's kind of what you mean, that we kind of do different things to hit all different modalities. So
Well, no, my point is, how do you make sure that you're
The coding
I mean,
in general.
still have a list. These are the things that my students need to have before they leave me to go to 6th grade. And so what I've done is, when I used to do, because I'm a 20-year veteran, I've been teaching for 20 years. So when I used to do a poster, I now do Ozobot. When I used to do a PowerPoint presentation, I now do a Scratch program. So it's just a matter of replacing some of those kind of things.
So-
You want to know how to recognize it.
How to recognize it?
I want to make sure that everybody that we're not getting so excited that we're losing the people who aren't getting it. So I want to make sure that
That's be your primary focus.
yeah,
Right,
that everyone's getting
So
it.
what I've done in the past too is I kind of call them my IT directors. So I kind of throw out what we're gonna do, let them just dive into it, see how they feel, and then start to kind of monitor and see who's really strong with it
Right,
and who's willing to start pairing up and start peer teaching.
right.
So I pair people up, I see how they're doing, but then I also do conferencing one-on-one. So we also
Yeah.
level different abilities as well. We don't want to give something that is like so
I think that's-
overwhelming.
That's
We
the
want a
idea.
nice starting point to build on.
What if
So-
there are kids that just aren't interested?
So with my project, actually this is funny, we were talking about the art side of it. So when I did my projects last year, again, I conferenced with the group, and some of them just were like, you know what, I'm just not quite sure about the coding. I just don't feel comfortable. So I said, you're going to have 2 artists and 1 programmer per group. And that's where eventually there was a lot of shifting, where actually all of them just started coding.
Mhm.
It just kind of like, again, caught
Yeah, the
like
exposure
fire.
to
It just went, oh my gosh, they feel like it's a game. So it might be a struggle to them, but a lot of them have so much success and they feel so great whenever they're like, yes, I finally got that one thing to work. But they're not only sitting at their desk going, I can't get this to work, they're actually seeking out those in the classroom that also can get it and go, I just need help with this. And they're starting to become vocal.
And it's an environment where
Yes.
that's
Yes.
natural. That's
yes,
natural.
yes,
Okay.
where they're speaking up for themselves, going, I'm not really getting this. Can I go talk to so and so? Yeah, sure. Go right ahead. Because sometimes I'll be honest, I don't even have the answer for them sometimes. Where I'm going, you know what? That's a great question. Let's figure this out together. So I mean, it's a learning process. I think there's always going to be some that struggle with it, but I think they like it so much just in general because of the game feel of it
Mhm.
that their interest level kind of overrides their struggle sometimes.
I think too, we leave it very open. We kind of give them a starting point, but how far they take it, you know, it's
Yeah.
completely up to them. Just we're in a project right now, and one of our kids that is like an IT director in our classroom is like, okay, so I finished with this story. Can I add a game on at the end asking about the main characters and protagonists? Like they just
You're like,
take it.
yes.
Yes, right? Like, but you would be shocked at how that's just the norm.
Yeah.
Like, it truly is.
I would not be shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can coding help the students with their standardized test as well?
I believe it does. I believe
Is
with
there
the
any evidence of that?
Yeah, there
I
is
think
research, there is research,
Yes.
Like PSSAs and
yes. So I don't know the exact research off the top of my head right now, but I know that there
Right.
is some
The skills that it teaches, I think, just
right,
go
the
over
logic, the problem solving, you know, it combines with the like reasoning and so on,
Being
especially
able to
the
understand
8
what's happening
mathematical
rather than just
practices that
Mhm.
right.
The higher level.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was legal.
Yeah.
Oh,
And like I said, I don't know if it's
Thank you very much.
much.
Are you guys done?
Yeah, we're
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, don't be sorry. It's very interesting and very enlightening, and we appreciate you bringing your stuff, and we really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
you.
Awesome work. Awesome work.
So I wanna let you know, last year, we had gotten the range grant for